map. So very, very important here as we kick this off. Our red Zerg is Reynor.
His opponent in the southeast playing as the Blue Protoss. It is Showtime.
He's already rocking some ESL Pro Tour points, of course, from his victories in the ESL Open Cup and runner-up positions. Something that Reynor, again, really didn't play in. He already played in some of the larger online events in the off-season.
Yeah, there's always the question of, you know, our players maybe taking it a little bit easier and focusing more on the bigger tournaments here. You know, over here in Katowice is really where a lot of the big bucks are there to be made.
Yeah, absolutely.
Taking first place in a group, you guaranteed top 8 and you guaranteed $10,000. That's already massive. And then after that, the pay jumps are like massive too.
It's actually crazy, right? When you think about how much these events are worth. And that's what's been so surprising almost about Europe, that so many people are playing in these $100 weekly cups in the ESL Open, because Showtime has been there pretty much every single week he could be. The only players that have really been missing from those events are Reynor and Serral.
Yeah, there's always like two ways to look about it, right? Like if for players that are playing in those, like sure, you might be revealing a little bit more of your strategies and all that, but also you're getting great practice.
Yeah, it's very true.
Like you're training so much, like you're working on your consistency and everything, and like you're getting some fantastic warm-up before the tournament. So if you're a Protoss player like Showtime who loves to play somewhat standards, just rely on your mechanics and, you know, your transitions, your scouting and all that, just you try and be very solid, I think it makes sense for him to play in online tournaments, because even though people see what he's doing, it's not like they're like, okay, well, I can counter what he's doing very easily by doing that and that. No, he's still playing very solid.
Yeah, it's not like he's relying on tricky builds, catch you off guard. That's where he gets his advantages. He gets his advantages from just being really, really good. And as we'll see, the first tech structure here soon from Showtime, and it is going to be a Stargate. And he really does love Stargate openers. He is not the guy to go for your Templar Archives, the Archon drops, or anything like that, or the Dark Shrine opening into your Archon drops. He is just going to Stargate. Like I said it in, before the game started, I think Triple Oracle is something on his radar, but also the possibility of going even double Stargate Phoenix, not something he might shy away from in the series.
Yeah, I think his execution is just so good no matter what he does. Like, I mean, he's very capable of going also for the Archon drop and stuff, but it definitely fell a little bit more out of fashion as of late. Like, Stargate is such a solid build that it's just perfect for Showtime. From there, you'll always see him go into a third base, do all the correct transitions, get all of his upgrades, go into Storm. And that will, like, playing Stargate will also allow him to scout a lot more easily. Like, he'll see the saturation when units are being made, and then having Revelation available. Also defensively, like, having Stasis Trap ready on your side of the map, that can help a ton with some of these attacks that Zergs can go for sometimes. Whereas for Reynor, it's really about what exact composition does he go into and how aggressive does he get, right? Like, do we see like a Spire being dropped down when he reaches Lair Tech, or does he maybe go for another avenue, maybe play with like a Nidus and Swarm Host? Like, he has a lot of options.
This is an interesting opening because Showtime has skipped the Phoenix and he skipped the Stalker, so he's actually going to have a few Adepts here early and 2 Oracles very quickly. So this is one of the more aggressive openings in PvZ where you can get across and really deal damage. The Oracle support and the Adepts can really make things get out of control. It's not like it's a ton of Adepts and that he's really hugely committed in, but there's an Overlord flying around Showtime's base that he has nothing to deal with. So he's letting Reynor see everything as a follow-up as well and taking a fast third behind it.
Yeah, Reynor has made the correct amount of units so far, and he's been in position every single time. He's being very thorough with the scouting, actually. Even checking the main base, he's going to see that there's the 3rd Oracle on the way, and he's already getting spores. So good defense so far from Reynor, but when there is that 3rd Oracle coming into play, that's when things are going to get scary. And he's actually making Showtime worry about these Zerglings here. Like, Oracles were kind of staying on them, Adepts were back in position at home, and like, not many units have died, but it feels like they've both already done so much to counter one another that if they had done, a few things differently, either of them could have taken a lot of damage already and kind of started falling apart.
2 more Adepts warped in, and now they're moving across the map with the first 3 as well. So really looking to get something done here. The lane count alone may not be able to do that. Behind it, the Robo and Forge coming down, and that is later because Triple Oracle, but by skipping the Phoenix, it's not super late, as that's a commitment in. Where are the Oracles? Nowhere to be found, so the Lings get a pretty good surround, and actually, that's just Showtime, his Adepts getting cleaned up straight away.
And Reynor perfectly anticipated what was going to happen here. He saw the Adepts shading inside of the third base. He's like, oh, I've seen this before. Got ready on the natural with the Queens. And he hasn't really taken any drone damage. I think so far. He's just lost links, that's it.
It's been a really good defense against something that really has been a bit more committed than your typical Stargate opener. So it's really, really good for Reynor here because, again, like I said, 3 Oracles, that Robo's a little bit later than usual, etc. And Reynor knew about this entire time because, again, there was never anything to shut down that Overlord in the main, as the Lings can't do much across the map, but that doesn't matter. He's just droning away right now, Lair, Rotron, and building up into the mid-game.
Yeah, finally, that Overlord's going to go down almost 6 minutes in here. That took a while. I think that's because Showtime purposely wanted to ignore that to really try and do some damage on the other side of the map. Great control here on the Oracles. Ooh, actually, some of these sentries are going to start... Ooh, wow. Never mind.
Yeah, no, I was with you. That was bad. But even using 3 force fields there is kind of rough as well. Usually those sentries in a position where like 1 force field keeps them safe. So now they're all pretty low energy with an Immortal out. It definitely takes away some possible pushing potential. One of the popular follow-ups from a triple Oracle is absolutely trying to get Templar Archives around now and then pushing around 7 minutes or so as Charge finishes up. I mean, Charge is a bit later here, so maybe 7:30 or so. But hitting with like a few Immortals and Archons, and as the gateway count builds up, it's a possibility from Showtime if he wants to get aggressive. It's just also tough when you haven't done initial damage with the Oracles, etc. because Reynor will just have more stuff ready to defend an attack like this.
Yeah, Reynor's +1 melee attack is lining up very well with when Lair finished here. So if you wanted to start +2 very soon, he could do that. Jumps on top of this army here of Showtime, which, I mean, this is supposed to be a fake, but he kind of got caught for a second. He needs to save the sentries. He's still choosing to fight thanks to Guardian Shield. He's reinforcing that position. Immortal looked like he was going to be exposed for a second, but Reynor doesn't quite have enough to get the cleanup.
I mean, here comes the second Immortal, and a couple of cannons back at home from Showtime. Again, as the Temple Archives finishes up, I think the main thing here is there's no Warp Prism, right? So without the Warp Prism, you can't realistically go much further across the map. And he is still just building Immortal after Immortal to make sure back at home he is okay. So from this, we're probably looking at a Showtime who just wants to go up in towards a 4th base, as that's going to be a pretty major lag spike for these guys. Unfortunately, Reynor is just not happy. He's out of here. Yeah, because... you're kind of, you know, it's kind of entering the mid-game, but do you want to end this in the mid-game, or do you want to build up much later as well? You can see Reynor, as we get back in, has just finished up the infestation bit, so he already has options in terms of how he can go from here.
Yeah.
In terms of, like, going up to Hive, of course, and so on and so forth, where Showtime's also got to say, you know, what do I add on? Do I tech further than Immortal Archon? Do I go, he's going double Robo, etc.? And again, do you eventually think, as Reynor probably goes Hive, do you go up to Stargates and Fleet Beacon, or what is the play from there?
How aggressive Reynor is going to be, because he's going to be playing. Oh, you know, he's taking the 5th base, like, you know, very normal. He's dropping a Spire now, but remember, +2 melee started pretty early, and he's getting a Centrifugal Hook, so I feel like there might be a Baneling drop option, but Showtime is known for his defense. Then again, if you queue perfectly, multiple Baneling drops at once, it's very hard for Protoss to react in all of those places and defend his probe lines correctly.
And it's absolutely a map where you have the left and the right side attack to run Banelings by as well, right? It doesn't even have to just be the drop. So if you drop the natural and run by a bit in the 3rd, a bit on the 4th, it can get really tough. Well, that is one heck of a wall from Demauer himself to shut down any run-bys on that side. So maybe not so much on the left, and we'll see what he does on the right. But overall, he's setting up into that stage of the game you'd expect to see from Showtime.
Wherever you have the wall, drops are still possible. That's the thing.
Course.
Walls, they're very good against units on the ground trying to do run-bys like these links, but if Banelings were to be dropped inside of this probe line, that's still very, very hard to defend against, especially if it happens simultaneously. Ooh, we might have spotted this here, which would be very nice.
Yeah, it's nice for him to also get those zealots on the map though, right? Let's see what this Overlord drop can do. Cannon will start a fire, that doesn't matter, as the Banelings will get one-shots on some of these probes, and that's only going to be 8, but it's still 8 less than Showtime was working with before. These zealots will show up, and the Overlord drop did spot those, so they get shut down pretty quickly. No damage from Showtime, and again, Reynor is looking absolutely unstoppable right now in terms of you just can't deal any damage to this kid.
Yeah, it's very, very hard. Showtime's actually going to some Phoenix here. Maybe worried about some air, some Mutai transition here at this stage is very common. And Reynor just pretty much maxed out here. I think he was really worried about Showtime going for an attack with a lot of High Templars, Archons, which this is what you want to hit. This is the timing. Pre-Hive, you want to basically get as close as possible to maxing out as Protoss and then go for a timing. But now there's so much creep spread. It really feels like neither player will want to play very aggressive. For Reynor, it's very tricky though, because he maxed out on like a roachling Bane army, right? So his army, as time passes by, is going to get worse and worse, especially as Showtime gets closer to maxing out.
Quite liked what Reynor did. He actually contaminated the storm just before it was done, and he was like, putting his army in the center when he set up that Balin drop and so on. He didn't see the opportunity to do anything, but if he had seen that opportunity, it would have been backed up by the later storm of Showtime thanks to that contaminate. Another nice little move, but yeah, I think these are both players who are quite happy right now to just let this go later into the game. Reynor is going up in towards Broodlords. Showtime is building his fleet beacon, so he's ready to take on the late game as well. And so from across the board, it just doesn't really look as though we're going anywhere. I mean, Showtime starts up the mother chip, so it doesn't even really feel like he's going to hit much of a pre-Broodlord timing.
We could be in for a long game, actually.
Yeah, maybe the first of today, right? I feel we've had some good games today, but not really anything that's like scratched the 20-minute marker.
I feel like every time I say that, though, somebody attacks.
you say that, then all the High Templars get blown up by 2 Balins. Showtime like tilt GG.
Then his army is like one mothership. Here we go. Minus 400, 400.
Well, let's hope, because it is a really cool setup for the game right now, and it is, it's so Europe actually in terms of StarCraft, right? European players, they have this thing at the top level where they really do just get into these long games with each other way more often than not, like Showtime Hero Marine in the group stage or the offline qualifier. Now we do see a few Banes here, not doing much. I mean, Showtime's on the map, but again, he's only going to commit if he really sees an opportunity. But Reynor sees one because he's got a flank set up. Balin's from the bottom right to the right-hand side, the bottom left as well. Good storms across the board as Showtime, though. How long can he put up against this army?
Yeah, the High Templars connected very nicely. There's still a bunch of Banelings here in the Stasis Trap that are going to get freed in a second, but Showtime, I feel like maybe that went slightly better for him, but there is a better reinforcing capability for Reynor right now.
Yeah.
Showtime's supply actually plummeted. I thought he had more High Templars with energy left over, but he doesn't really. Banelings trying to connect on top of those High Templars. They're going to remove some of those, and Reynor is trying to swarm Showtime right now. That Hive, he doesn't want to use it just yet. He thinks he can get the win right now.
Why take the Hive if you can just run across the map with all of these units? I mean, he took a good fight, and now he's capitalizing on that again. Showtime was just missing the storm. He had no time to rebuild up. Not really enough splash damage. I mean, these extra few warpins are going to make it a bit close. He's keeping his Immortals alive, but that's about it for the moment.
He's so rich. He's just unable to spend his bank right now. Yep. Showtime has so much minerals and gas. He probably doesn't have the gateways. He has only 10, and I guess he's producing a lot. But units are not coming out quickly enough here to defend convincingly in the first place. He's going to drop down additional ones, and now he's rebuilding his entire army. Reynor has so much gas to work with. Yeah. This is the dream at this stage, like when you're on 5 bases, just so that you can go into Broodlords, add a bunch of Infestors. We might just see like a ton of spores being dropped down as well in a second if he's worried about air.
Yeah, it feels as though he's kind of, I mean, he's morphing in more Banelings, but I'm not sure if he's really going to go again, because now he's backed off for a while. Showtime's had a bit more time to get High Temple and start getting energy build up once more. There's a lot of Banelings to his right-hand side, a couple shield batteries, zealots, etc. Let's see what they can do. The Stalker is part of a wall off here, like a secondary wall, and it looks as though that's one final Bane. It's a good defense. Only 5 probes against that many Banes, and that's great for Showtime, because that is, again, really saying to Showtime as well, Reynor's like, if I'm given this many Banes to harass, I'm not about to hit you with a big army.
They both have a somewhat ideal economy, I would say, right? 81 drones against 75 probes. That's pretty good. But yeah, Neural Parasite now on the way for Reynor. And he already made Pathogen Glands. Banelings actually got caught on the other side of the map here. Showtime's army feels like it's scarier for now, but it relies a lot on having enough High Templars to fight against those Zerg units, and anytime he steps on creep, he gets fully surrounded. So I really like what he's doing. He's going through that north avenue here. We see Reynor trying to set up a flank from behind, but this could be a very bad fight for Reynor here, even though he's got some Broodlords in the mix.
Yeah, the Broodlord count isn't like super high, right?
Oh,
There's a few Stalkers. It looks like, especially because there's enough underneath. But at the same time, the Warp Prism on this left side of the map is getting damage done. Showtime will recall a few units to protect his 5th base, and that is going to be the mothership back there. But yeah, for the first time, Reynor's really taking damage and is a little slow to clean up some of Showtime's harassment.
And this is typical Reynor, by the way. Those Ling run-bys, always in the one spot where you're the least defended, the least ready. Yeah. Some more probes just died for Showtime. It's very annoying. He kind of has to replace them. And Reynor is dealing with this really well. He always has units in position. He's on the other side of the map. He did lose a couple drones, but like he can very easily replace them. He's already back to maxed out and still has so much gas to work with. Like he can just think about what's the perfect army he wants to assemble here and go for it.
No, these Banelings come crashing on in. That is an entire mineral line, and Banelings to spare. At the same time, Showtime's still fighting great storms across all the Zerglings. So suddenly maybe Showtime has some potential, but Broodlords are going to make this tough. Showtime's going to get the base, and I kind of imagine this way. He backs away and just says, okay, I got a base at least, but I also need to rebuild my own work account.
And he already used the recall, so...
Yeah, he couldn't go back really too easy. I mean, I kind of like this army staying here, though, right? Because the Broods don't want to go that far forwards, because that really pulls them out of position as well.
Yeah. I think Reynor might just attack, though, eventually. But I guess he has a bit of minerals to work with to start building some static defense, because then you're really worried about the counter-attack, right? If you attack with the Broodlords.
Yeah, that War Prism was the one thing that finally started to deal some sort of damage here.
That army against Snow Tempest, like, this is looking very scary.
Yeah, Showtime's just, it felt as though he was wanting to move into something more, but he's just not found that opportunity since this sort of started build up. And right now, this base is less defended than it was before. He didn't rebuild that much off the earlier attack, so this is going to get hit. At the same time, Showtime is actually coming forwards to take the fight here in the center. It's still just those Broodlords making life so difficult. He's going to blink for them, and this is the moment from Showtime as he comes on forwards. He gets a couple Broods already. The Archon's trying to get underneath as a Time Warp is dropped, and finally some Storms starting to come through as well on top of those Ravagers. And Lynx from the back will get Storm too.
Yeah, Time Warp is active, but Reynor is cleaning up right now. Showtime's running out of units. Look at the supply. A massive lead for the Zerg player.
With money to spend as well, by the way. Reynor can re-max here almost. As Showtime is finally like, oh yeah, I need Tempest. And it's just, I think it all comes back to that first fight with that big surround. Showtime just lost a bit too much, and from there, he's never had the comfortable scenario to build up into that later game army, which he needed for this fight now.
Reynor has so much gas to work with. Like, this is what Zerg dreams are made of.
Yeah.
Like, his economy really wasn't disturbed that much. Like, Showtime sniped the base at the top, but Reynor was already pretty much retaking another one. He shut down every single War Prism that was flying into his base to warp in Zealots. And from there, he's looking to be in a fantastic position here in what was a straight-up game, really. You know, they both went for their attack, went onto multiple bases. Showtime started assembling his army, but it did feel like Showtime has been very timid to transition into Tempest, and that the transition was just very late in general. Like, he just wanted to make stuff happen before that, but Reynor didn't allow for it to happen. And those Zergling counterattacks, they started adding up, as well as Baneling drops and run-bys.
It's kind of nice the way that Reynor did the build-up to Broodlords as well, because he didn't go like 10 Broodlords at once, right? He went 4 and then 4 more. And that really maybe scares Showtime too, because at any point Reynor still has a mass of, you know, Bane Ravage, and if he attacks with that and you're building like 3 Tempests at a time, then it's not looking so great. So yeah, definitely has been a bit timid to move up, but maybe just because of the way that Reynor got there.
And now both players are still trying to assemble the perfect army here to fight in this game right now. Showtime kind of struggling on the economy side of things. 62 probes. We have 66 drones on the other side.
Yeah.
But Reynor is already maxed out, and his bank is building up quicker for sure because of the amount of bases that he has.
Yeah, I mean, that's the crazy thing, right? Showtime just has not had constant Zealot run-bys, and the couple he's had have been kind of shut down early. So apart from the one time he sniped that 12 o'clock base, Reynolds just always had another base ready to go. And like if Zealots hit this base now, and if they were taking it down, there's the base back on the 12 o'clock again. So he just has mining consistently. He has, you know, 68 drones, like you said, it's perfectly fine, and it's a good economy, and it's consistently building up that bank while he just sits back and improves his army too.
Yeah, Reynor's doing great on the upgrades as well. +3 melee, +3 missile, +2 carapace, +2 Zerg Spire attacks, and he's getting all of the additional upgrades that he needs as well. He's keeping Showtime very busy, attacking in the south here with the Ravagers. They're kind of becoming more and more expandable at this point. He wants to replace them with more expensive units. And look at the production type, 32 links.
Yeah.
So he's looking to keep on doing those run-bys. Like, the Protoss army is kind of immobile, especially with like the Mothership and those Tempests.
Yeah, it really is. That was a Storm drop to try and get a couple drones. Gets 4. Showtime was just out of position there, and that base came under some heavy fight, and there was a lot of his gateways there too, so hopefully that doesn't affect him too much if he has to then reproduce later. Gotta say, Reynolds' mineral bank has been drained a little bit, right? So it's not just sat there ready to instantly rebuild. If Showtime can take a fight right now, but that's an undefended base in the top right. Showtime, at the very least here, going to be hoping he can do something up in the 9 o'clock.
I'm really surprised he took that one instead of the 6 o'clock.
Yeah, because he's already down that sort of direction. I wonder if it had something to do with the way he was just pushing and attacking at the time. Yeah, actually loses an Infestor right away as Lings now make their way into that 4th base. And Showtime going to keep on taking damage, or 5th base, I should say.
Reynor's map awareness and Zergling run-bys is just so top tier.
Yeah.
Every single time you leave one of your bases alone for 1 second, Lings are there. They do a ton of damage to buildings. He forces the recall again. He's just so good at it.
Now the Tempests are out though, right? It feels like Reynor's army is that little bit tougher to do something with because the Broodlords are so much less scary. And obviously now he has to kind of build up that Corrupt account a bit to actually have a way to fight the Tempests back. So it does feel like Showtime's got himself maybe into a bit of a better spot than he was a few moments ago. And as he backs away now, again, he did deny that base, and it is 5 against 5 bases right now. And
here comes the upgrades. Reynor is about to be 3-3-3-3.
That's true. For Showtime just chilling out, no attack, only 1 attack upgrade on the air units, only 1 shield upgrade, and those are things which actually, in a later, longer game like this, really can start to make a difference.
Especially if, like, when he's doing warpins with Zealots and everything inside of the main base, having +3 armor would be amazing. Like +2 air feels like something that already should be on the way, but because Reynor has been so proactive with the Zerglings and shut down so much of the economy, he finds himself in his position where like Showtime is not where he would like to be at in terms of upgrades and just army and economy yet. Everything really. And now Burrow being on the way, transitioning into Infestors. If Showtime's not ready and doesn't have enough observers to deal with this could be a disaster.
It really could be, as right now the Tempests are getting caught by a few of these Corruptors which move forwards, and that's 2 Tempests already down. At least the Archons and Storms now showing up as well, and a few Corruptors go down. Now a big recall back to the right side as he realizes he needs more help defending this Roach Ravager attack. So Showtime trying to be fancy in 2 locations, but overall it feels like he's the one that's hurting more from all of this.
Yeah, this was super cost effective for Reynor. He saw those Tempests kind of idle for a little bit.
I tell you what though, Reynor's work account's down though.
Resources lost. Showtime actually lost a bunch more. Yeah, it feels kind of rare, right, for Protoss against Zerg at this stage.
It definitely is, right, because usually the Zerg is the one who's got like cheaper units that you use more of, and you meant to have the stronger economy, right, to rebuild. So it's definitely tough for Showtime. And fights like this don't help. You lose 2 Archons right off the bat. Lings are still here to keep picking away at their space. Showtime, he recalled over the right side. I think that was with the Mothership though, so I'm not sure what he can do to get back down the bottom.
He might have to go all in. Like his economy just got wrecked. He lost his most important base, lost a bunch of probes there. And now it's like, what do? Do you just play slow, or do you let the Zerg just completely outproduce you, have way more bases? Archons now getting caught on this side of the map. These upgrades are paying off so much for Reynor.
And every single time one of these fights happen, Reynor just seems to have the slightly better amount of units, right? You know, it's never Showtime who's just like, oh, I've got 2 extra Archons that you can deal with. It's always Reynor just able to clean up. And that's where that resource loss difference will be coming from. These little skirmishes around, and you know, again, this big army from Showtime probably doesn't know where to go for the best, and I feel like I get what you mean, right? Try and all in and do something. The one thing I'll say is that Reynor's work account is still low, right? He is 53 drones, and that's not super crazy, so it's not like Reynor is mining so much more than Showtime. It's just what's already happened that's making Showtime's life so difficult as Lings strike once again.
These Lings are ridiculous. He's everywhere. In the meantime, Neural Parasite's going to come into play. Infestors weren't burrowed for some reason. They're going to get stormed on top of, but there's nothing to deal with the Broodlords at this point. He lost all of his Tempests. And Showtime is going to tap out Reynor with a very solid game number 1 here.